Hi everybody, I'm Belinda and today I want to show you a mixture of two printmaking methods. In this demonstration I'm taking a collograph made from Matboard, applying colored inks and printing it on the press. Then that same print will go through the press again, but this time with a Drypoint registered and aligned on top of the colored print so that I can get some line work and detail. Let's see how it looks. I've put a drawing on the back of a piece of Matboard and I'm carving out the line work here. If you need some instructions on how to make a Matboard collograph, I'll put links in the About section of this video as well as here on the video screen so that you can click back to step-by-step instructions on how to make one. Here is the finished collograph plate. I'm not carved very much out of it because it's mostly being used for background color. Ink can be applied to the plate with bristle brushes or small sized brayers. These are Takash brayers. Once the color is applied, you can also dab at it with your fingers to feather it out. You can also apply it directly with your fingertips. Make sure you're using a rubber glove. And then once it's in place, you can pull some of it away to add some textural elements. After a quick trip through my etching press, the pigment has been transferred to a sheet of paper and I've got background color for the next phase of this print. The dry point in this project was done on a piece of clear plexiglass that I beveled. In order to have the two plates register, I traced the drawing on the plexiglass directly off the collograph plate. Here I'm using an engraving needle to etch some deep line work in the surface of the plexi that will hold ink. I'm using a Bondo scraper from an automotive supply shop, which is relatively soft plastic, to apply ink on the plate. I'll use the same scraper to pull excess ink off the plate. Be sure to use something softer than the plexiglass itself so that you don't scratch the surface. Now for wiping. TARLATAN is starched cheesecloth, and I'm rolling it into itself like a jellyfish so that I can use the dome side face down on the plate in circular motions to remove ink. This process takes a little bit of practice, so if you've never done it before, pull a couple of test prints before you actually align and print on top of the collograph that you made. After the TARLATAN, I used NEWSPRINT on some of the unengraved areas to get some bright whites, and then flannel or rags to clear the edges of any excess ink. I'm ready to print, so I'm pulling the 8 collographs that I created earlier in the week that are now dry, and I'm getting ready to soak them. Paper expands quite a bit when it's been wet, so since the collograph was made with soaked and blotted paper, then the dry point portion of this will also be done with soaked and blotted paper so that I can get registration between the two prints. The setup for soaking paper doesn't have to be fancy. That's a $5 cat litter box that I purchased for soaking small sheets of paper, an old beach towel, and the timer I'm using is an old-fashioned Spring and Bell oven cooking timer. One of the benefits of using clear plexi for this dry point is the ability to do a manual registration. Since the dry point plate was made by tracing the collograph plate, I can, once it's inked, hold the dry point directly over the collograph print and eyeball a registration before laying the inked side down on top of the collograph. I've got folded newsprint underneath the collograph for a little cushion, and now I'm putting a piece of same size Matboard behind the dry point plate so that I can flip the whole sandwich over. The added materials have created a little bit of height, and also it gives me something to hold to flip the plate and paper. I want the collograph paper face down on top of the inked dry point plate when it goes through the press. The pressure on the press has pushed the paper down to collect all the ink in the incise lines of the dry point to give this sort of vintage, old-fashioned-y print. This was done 8 times for the edition, and each one is slightly different based on what background colors were put on the collograph and what the inking and wiping method was on the dry point. There was my experiment with mixing 2 different printmaking methods. One that is considered a relief print, the other one that is considered an intaglio. So I'm still experimenting, and I'll share more details of more adventures as I go along, so please subscribe. If this was helpful to you at all, please leave a thumbs up and a comment or a question if you have them down below, and I'll see you next video. Bye-bye.